Hello everyone, Felix from Nintendo Life here, and today we're here to review Cursed to Golf. This review was written by the wonderful Mitch Vogel and converted into video by me. Okay, so Halloween might still be a couple of months away, but Juhai Labs has seen fit to kick off the spooky season early with its latest release, Cursed to Golf. You play as a person who basically escapes from hell using nothing but the god-tier golf skills. It's certainly a memorable adventure, and we're happy to say that it's actually a pretty solid golf game. There are some relatively minor flaws here and there, but the quality of its excellent gameplay means that this game generally shows itself to be up to par. Cursed to Golf plays you in a role of a professional golfer who, at the start of the narrative, is a very, alive person about to claim victory in a golf tournament. As you close in on the 18th and last hole, a thunderstorm rolls in, but your character will not be deterred from seizing their destiny. Unfortunately, this turns out to be a very poor decision, as you're struck by lightning and subsequently killed. Your golfer's soul is sent to a sort of golfing purgatory, where you're greeted by the ghost of a Scotsman golfer who says you need to clear 18 holes of a spooky, ever-shifting course to ascend back into the living world. The problem is that, nobody has actually done it before. But that, of course, isn't going to stop you from trying as many times as it takes to get back to your body and finish that golf tournament. Beyond the beginning, there isn't really much story to speak of in Cursed to Golf, but this isn't necessarily a drawback. Aside from the occasional input from support characters like the Scotsman or the Explorer, you spend most of your time here gritting your teeth and really hoping that the ball doesn't land in the water or spike pit. Above all else, the focus is on the gameplay, and we're pleased to report that it feels nicely polished. The gameplay follows a version of the standard formula present in many other golf games, where you select an appropriate club for that shot and then have to participate in a brief timing minigame to execute that said shot. Stopping the bar just where you want it can be surprisingly difficult to do, which helps making stakes even higher and makes risky shots feel appropriately satisfying. Precision is everything here, especially given that many courses will feature shortcuts that can reduce your stroke count if you manage to thread the needle. The stages themselves are the star of the show though, as they find all kinds of creative ways to spice up the 2D golf formula. Your typical sand and water hazards are of course present, but it's the stranger things like pinball-style bumpers and TNT boxes that keep things much more interesting. Very often, you're given a choice between a couple of potential paths you can follow, sometimes even leading to different holes you can try to reach, and picking the right route is typically a matter of deciding which gauntlet of traps and hazards you think you can best overcome. Even the best laid out plans can quickly be turned upside down if it's a stage where curses take effect, for example, a sudden strong wind or the ball becoming extremely heavy. How you plan is especially important, given that you have no choice here but to at least reach par. You're given a limited number of shots at the start of each level, and if you can't get the ball into the hole by the time you run out of these shots, your character gets sucked into a vortex that sends them all the way back to the Scotsman's shop before the first hole. The limited shot count can be upped by shattering these idols scattered throughout these courses. The silver ones give you +2 shots, and the gold ones give you +4. But another way to up the shot count is by playing certain power cards, more on that in a bit. But even with these boons, many stages will still end up with you biting your nails, hoping you can pull off a miracle shot to clinch a win. Should you fail, you can attempt to ascend again as many times as you like, but the levels will be different most of the times because the nefarious greenskeeper keeps shifting things around. It feels a little weird playing golf with survival rules at first, but we thought this approach was actually a good fit for Cursed to Golf, as there's a nice amount of tension that comes with initially planning a route and trying to judge if you can actually do it within your allotted shot count. Luckily, you're given some options to help ease things along. If the ball is still moving, you can add spin to it one way or the other to help put it exactly where you want it to. Additionally, you can along the way collect various consumable power cards that can help really skew things your way. Miss a shot completely and you can play a mulligan card to get back with no penalty. If you're not sure if you can land the ball precisely where you want, play a time stop card to cause the ball to instantly drop. Narrow tunnels are much easier to navigate if you use a rocket ball, which you can manually steer around corners and up walls. Some of these cards are quite situational, but we lost count of how many times a well-placed power-up made the difference between victory and defeat. We appreciated that the power-ups don't overshadow the actual golfing gameplay itself too. They're here to supplement the gameplay and help you fudge some mistakes, but you can't use them as a crutch. New power-ups are obtained either from natural progression or by stopping at a shop between courses to buy new card packs. And while you're always sure you have some cards you can rely on, a run is still very much decided by how well you're actually able to pull off these shots. Though the moment-to-moment gameplay is certainly enjoyable, we do feel like the roguelike aspects of the gameplay loop aren't integrated as well as they could be. A normal run will usually take you a couple of hours if you get reasonably far, and though you later unlock the ability to set checkpoints that effectively give you a limited revive for run, it doesn't feel great when you inevitably fail a hole and watch all that painstaking effort go up to smoke. Roguelikes are often marked by their gradual sense of progression, whether that can be direct upgrades to your character or more unlockables for usage in future runs. Cursed to Golf simply kicks you back into the bunker and gives you nothing to show for your efforts. In this sense, it feels like progression is often stagnating. Something like having a way to upgrade the power cards would go a long way towards making it feel like even a failed run still netted you some meaningful progress. All in all, it's a testament to the quality of the gameplay that even without a more tangible sense of progress, Cursed to Golf remains an addictive experience. No matter how many times we failed, it was tough to avoid trying just one more hole, which would quickly snowball into another full run. This is the kind of game that just begs you to keep trying, and it's nearly impossible to refuse, especially when your understanding of the mechanics slowly deepens and you get better at nailing shots you used to struggle with. As for its presentation, Cursed to Golf does a great job in selling its silly aesthetic while still showcasing some nicely drawn pixel art. Though courses tend to blur together given that they're all built using the same handful of assets, we appreciated the variety of colors on offer here and the attention to detail, like the moon being a gigantic golf ball in the sky. You won't necessarily be wowed by the pixel art on display here, but it's clear that the developers put a lot of love into the game's visual style. Meanwhile, the soundtrack maintains an upbeat, synth-heavy tone that reminded us quite a lot like Jake Kaufman's work on Shovel Knight, but with a distinctive Halloween-themed twist. Songs are catchy and vaguely creepy in the best ways, and they keep the tone from feeling too dull as you sit there painstakingly lining up your next shot. The only downside here is that we found that in longer sessions, many of the tracks felt a little repetitive. It's not that the individual tracks are bad, but it feels like they looped on themselves a little too fast. It certainly wasn't enough to ruin the experience, but we wish there was a little more variety here. In conclusion, Cursed to Golf is an interesting and enjoyable golf game, mixing creative power-ups and roguelike game design with tried-and-true golf gameplay. Though we felt like the roguelike elements held this one back a bit, the polished gameplay, appealing art style, and high replay value make this one an easy recommendation. If you're at all a fan of golf games, we suggest you pick this up immediately, but even if you're just looking to try something new, we'd encourage you to give this a shot. We here at Nintendo Life give Cursed to Golf on the Nintendo Switch an 8 out of 10. And now with the review done, it's time for Felix's personal thoughts. First off, if you played the game A Short Hike, you'll be pleased to know that the composer of that game is also the composer of this game. Man, is this soundtrack just good. Probably my favorite part of the game, to be honest. It's just some banging tunes and they just keep on delivering. I don't know, I just think I'm a big fan of the composer Mark Sparling, so huge props to that guy because this music is explicit. Also, a thing to keep in mind is that this game is fun, but it's also really hard. So just know that when you go into the game. So many times I got to like the final boss of the first world, Hole 5, and I just died, and it was just so hard because there really isn't a lot of progress. So it's just a thing to keep in mind if you go into this game, that this game is hard. A thing that bugged me a bit was the animations in between shots. Sure, you can fast forward these animations, but it feels kind of awkward since it's the same button that you use to pull up the cards with, so if you keep holding up, you will eventually just pull up the cards, and I don't know, I just felt like it could have used different buttons, or instead of fast forwarding, it could just skip right to when you line up your shot. Yeah, this is just me nitpicking because this game is good. Also, another thing is that there's some minor visual bugs, like you can see here at the numbers and letters. It seems like they've been cropped slightly out of place, since you can see black lines on each side. And again, I'm just nitpicking. I just thought that, well, maybe they saw this video and then they can go and patch it, because I don't think it's a hard thing to patch. But to end on a high note, let's talk about the art style. I'm a huge fan of pixel art, and this is pulled off tremendously, especially the characters like the Scotsman or the Explorer. Oh my god, this looks amazing! And when you reach later areas, it's just so refreshing because they look and feel so different from previous areas. And yeah, that was everything for me. If you like this video, why don't you pick the right club and then line up the shot to hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to check out our website, nintendolife.com, for all sorts of Nintendo related content. Stay safe, play some Custer Golf. Felix from Nintendo Life, out.